Right, for more, we take you live to SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga, who's been following the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Canny, a very good afternoon to you. A number of interesting revelations coming out of the testimony of Advocate Ramsamy today, who, of course, spoke a little bit and had to answer to questions around her demeanor, and also speaking about a point where she concluded that she was a mere puppet at IDAC. Talk to us about some of the highlights.
Absolutely, Paul. Good afternoon to you and to the viewers at home. Well, certainly the most interesting part of Ramsamy's testimony comes here at the tail end, just before the lunch adjournment, where she discusses the project diversion, or what took place in that meeting when Advocate Andrea Johnson, that is the former IDAC head, had listed out what the investigations were going to be and in what parts the investigations were going to follow and what the alleged instructions were in that regard. And there are some very interesting rather allegations coming out with respect to General Canny Maphanga that continue to feed into the numerous themes that circle around IDAC in terms of its investigations. Once again, you see that the now suspended IDAC chief investigator Dylan Peramo seems to carry a bit of an elevated role in the process, even though it's prosecution-led investigations. And you see yet again, Johnson at all times is aware of what is going on, and she is leading project diversion, as Ramsamy states rather in her testimony. And then when you get to the investigations, it seems that this narrative, or at least this allegation that Ramsamy makes, that it was about allegedly targeting high-ranking generals, namely the crime intelligence boss, Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, and top cop General Canny Maphanga, by any means necessary, continues to be affirmed in the testimony and the notes that seemingly compare with what she's written in her affidavit and what she would have noted down during the meeting at the time, because it seems that Johnson allegedly made a request or instructed the persons in that particular meeting in January that they should not let top cop General Canny Maphanga know about the crime intelligence portion, which I think was the third listed item in terms of the investigations and the order that it would follow. And it seems that she hadn't made that instruction because allegedly what was supposed to take place is that General Canny Maphanga was set to head to that particular portfolio committee on policing that is in Parliament in order to answer to these crime intelligence allegations, but he wouldn't know that there was an investigation taking place at the time. So the consequence of that would be that he would have lied under oath. And the tricky part of this particular testimony is that those members who were part of that particular committee seem to have been engaging with IDAC. So the inference there is that they would have known that these investigations were taking place, but this is not something that would have been known to General Canny Maphanga. And Ramsamy remarks at the end that the intention was that if they can't get him on the others, or rather the plan was that if they allegedly can't get him on the other charges, they can at least get him on perjury for lying under oath. So you're seeing a pattern where this is seemingly quite well planned out and orchestrated, as Ramsamy alleges before the probe in her testimony last week, that the goal was to get these high-ranking generals by any means necessary. And this meeting is just yet another portion of the evidence that feeds into that particular narrative or allegation before the Madlanga Commission. Also, just a quick point, Paul, about Cedric Gabinde. His name comes up, so does Minister Mchunu, with respect to a meeting that had taken place between Johnson and Mchunu, where it seems that Johnson felt a bit uncomfortable around Gabinde, and she had asked Ramsamy to get anything on him. And how Ramsamy understood it is that she needed to get dirt on Cedric Gabinde, who was the chief of staff of the Minister of Police, and she also understood it to mean that that may have been a request allegedly coming from Minister Mchunu because it followed a meeting. But she adds layers to this particular meeting at the residence of Mchunu by adding that the meeting at the residence and the subsequent mention of the Tembisa Hospital case, which we know as the Medicare 24 fraud case, is something that Johnson only brought up after that particular meeting. So it's just an allegation that she's placed placing out there that it's a coincidence that she meets with the minister and then all of a sudden this case is now on IDAC's radar when there's no Section 27 referral in that regard. So very interesting allegations coming up about Ramsamy, at least her role in these particular investigations and what she can reveal. And the consistent themes continue to persist, which is that Johnson was the dictator, quote unquote, of Project Diversion, knew what was happening at all times, and we're now seeing how different key role players came in to ensure that those particular generals were targeted and put in that witness box. We expect for this hearing to continue after the lunch adjournment at 2 p.m. It's over to you in studio.
Very well. Thank you very much. SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga bringing us up to speed with some of the evidence being given at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, of course, continuing at the top of the hour.